got that right.
A good problem to have.
You got that right.
A good problem to have.
You got that right. Well, we are live, and how's everybody today? Doing well?
Great.
Well, thank you.
All right. Well, we are live, and so now what I have to do is play with it. Oops,
Well,
can't do that. All right. This is gonna be interesting. So now what I have to do is play with it. Oops.
I hear an echo.
Now we're good. Well, you know, this is the very first time. The very first time we're on YouTube Live. So of course there would be a little bit of a bump. You got an old geezer doing tech work here. So
Okay.
or at least that's my excuse that I'm using.
There you go.
Because that's all I got.
Hello, YouTube family.
How's it going? YouTube and Facebook family. So
Hello, YouTube and Facebook family.
how's
Yes.
everybody?
Hello, everyone.
So has it been a great weekend?
So far, so good for
All
me.
right.
Absolutely.
Yeah, it's going pretty well. It's been interesting. I barbecued on Friday and Saturday. Of course, officially, Friday was my birthday.
I did see
Yeah.
that. Happy
Yeah.
birthday.
So
Belated.
I'm officially an old geezer, although my corona hair is going to be gone by next Saturday because I got my appointment May 30th. I'm just saying. I was like, dude, you can't get me in sooner? He was like, people have been calling me for a month.
Yeah.
I said, but I had a set date and time on Thursday, and you moving me to Saturday? So
Oh, yeah.
I almost pulled rank, but then I'd probably have hair down to my shoulders by the time he let me in. So I thought that'd be nice.
There you go.
I thought that'd be nice. So this week, all week, we've been off a couple weeks. It's been quite a while. And I was having a thought about technology and how technology really is starting to impact everything that we do. And I guess not necessarily jumping into the COVID thing, but recognizing how that has impacted what we do. It's to the point where not just healthcare, not just business, not just communications, but every aspect of our lives is now touched by technology. And so I was wondering, you know, I wanted to ask my two favoriteest people in the world, your thoughts on where do we go from here? Like, what has changed because of technology in the past 60, 90 days? And then where are we going? Let me pick a time. Where do you suggest will be December 31st, 2020? And I'll start with you, Nick.
Very, very interesting. Well, December 31st, 2020, if it's cold, I don't mind being in the house. So they can enforce safer at home all winter long. I'm good.
Yeah. Okay.
So from a technology standpoint, I think this is an excellent opportunity for technology companies, technology businesses. I think even as I've navigate through the web and on the different social medias, I've seen more technology-based software, meetings, office type things, promoting virtual type of learning, virtual type of support systems for businesses and organizations. I've seen a whole lot of that. And so this is a prime opportunity for them. I think you'll find a lot of organizations utilizing that type of software. I even think that you might even see what was kind of lightweight. I think you'll see an increase in virtual co-ops, where a lot of hubs, I know it's really popular in the South, but I think you'll see it more so in the Midwest. A lot of just virtual hubs, organizations deciding, hey, it's probably a good idea since we're streamlining resources, streamlining budgets and things of that nature, that we consider saving X amount on rent for facilities and things of that nature. And let's be a part of this big organizational hub, and where you can just go if you want to get away from home, set up, take your laptop, and we share resources like the printer, the copy, coffee, all that stuff may be in a common place, but we don't own it and we don't pay rent to it.
Right.
And so I think you'll see a lot of that. I think this time that we've been apart has been an opportunity for a lot of organizations to redefine their approach to work, also to redefine their strategy for onboarding clients, probably for marketing. I mean, it's a whole shifting that has to happen, and I think the shifting will continue to happen. Some will go in it kicking and screaming. Some have, believe it or not, probably already started leveraging and shifting.
Okay.
I myself, for my own organization, have already started leveraging and pivoting and doing some things virtually and a lot of telehealth stuff. Now, the good thing for me is with telehealth, before COVID, telehealth, getting to do telehealth had about 25 list of things that you had to do in order for it to happen.
Right.
After COVID, I may have got 2 things I got to do and you're all in.
Right.
I can't see that going back because.
Now, was that because of the federal regulations changed? They made it virtually free, and many other healthcare organizations followed suit.
Right. And so they had to lift the restrictions, and because stress is increasing, drug addictions is increasing, mental health is increasing, and I don't think that's going to go away after COVID.
Yeah.
I think you're going to just see more of it.
Okay. Noleta, your thoughts?
I would wholeheartedly concur with Nick. And what I would add to that is that I think you're going to see a real push into the virtual space in terms of how employers move forward. I know there's a number of Wisconsin-based global companies who have started talks about not even coming back to work or having their employees come back to work until the beginning of 2021. And I think that's going to set a trend. And from that trend, I know we said this some time ago early on in one of our broadcasts, where they're really going to be looking at, do we need these large buildings anymore? Do we need this large space where we have to host all of these employees and have all these resources? I know some organizations are doing things where they're coming back in phases. So taking workers who crucially have to be in the office to get done with their duties. And for those who don't, well, hey, maybe they get to, work remotely. So I think you're going to see a huge shift in that. And I think that's a good thing, because what it's telling employers is that employees can be trusted. You don't have to micromanage to a certain extent a lot of the things that's going on, and that you can have a space where people are kind of free to do their work at their own pace and in their own way. And so working from home, you really have kind of like this ability to set your own hours and set your own pace. And as long as you're getting your work done, that could be, hey, I worked a couple hours and I run downstairs and put a load of clothes in, but you're multitasking. And that way you're finding this kind of life balance that wasn't there before because you were outside of the home. And so I think you're really going to see some shifting on just what a work day looks like and what a work environment looks like, and a lot more buy-in from some of the organizations. In terms of a personal level, as much as we would like for things to get back to normal quickly, I think that people are still skittish. And so I think you're going to see a lot more probably small gatherings before a lot of those kind of large scale things come back, if they come back at all. And I think that people, where we used to be in a technological age where we would text all the time, but then now when you can't see people, you're forced to say, hey, I just want to see their face. So you're You see apps like, WhatsApp or Google Duo, where you can video chat even if you don't have the same provider. So I think you're going to see an increase in people staying connected, but virtually. And so I think it's a positive thing overall. Unfortunately, it took a situation of uncertainty to take us to kind of give us the push or the kick that we needed in the rear to move forward, moving forward out of necessity, if for nothing else. But I think it's really going to be a positive as we go on, and something that some tools that we're going to have with us to use long down in the future.
Well, I'm gonna challenge every single thing everybody said because that's who I am. Well, I don't know if it's multitasking to work and then run downstairs and do. That's just doing two things. I think we've given multitasking an unfair advantage of thinking we can do multiple things at one time. That's a great recipe for mediocre, I think. I think if we take time and focus on what we're doing and be 100% there, then if I need to go wash clothes, I need to do 100% there. I can't be doing work while I'm downstairs washing, doing something, because then we do 50-50, and then that's when your t-shirts come out polka dot and your clothes. And so we even in business, we think the ability to multitask is great, but I think we've shown that you can actually work at home and probably be more productive because you can work on it when you feel like it. And I think that's where Noleta was going when she talked about being able to multitask and do multiple things at one time in the same space. But I'm here 24 hours. I don't have to get in my car, drive to work. Now, the negative part of that is salary. What I don't have to spend on a building, I can spend on technology and actually absolutely love it. I can get a third-party app, build it out, get an enterprise version, and for all intent and purpose, I never need to own a building again. But something Nick talked about is I don't know if that's gonna fly. I just quickly got on that favorite website everybody's on to search stuff. I can't get free advertising unless they pay me, right? Okay. So and that was a hint that I'll take an ad on my page. Okay. So WeWork, there was an article on Friday. WeWork could falter, and it's on Business Insider. I went through Google. WeWork could falter as costs spiral and social distancing hits offices. And so now people are asking, hey, why am I paying for WeWork when I can't go to work? We have to social distance. You need to pause my monthly payment. And think about how much technology has interrupted a business that now you don't pay, there's no reason to pay. I wonder how long Planet Fitness is going to stay in business when, sure, $10 a month, but the stores are closed. We need social distancing, that type of thing. And so I love how technology has helped communication. And so tell me, how has communication really impacted you, or has it been enhanced because of COVID-19, or how's that going? And I'm gonna start with Noleta.
I think how it's impacted me is having the ability to reach a larger group of folks, because everyone's social distancing, everyone's safer at home. So technology is really the only way people are kind of, gathering and spending time amongst, with one another. And so in terms of Beautifully Blended, it's allowed for us to reach out to folks and have people reach out to us, have smaller sessions where we're talking to couples who are, maybe they're in the midst of an issue, maybe they're getting ready to get married and foresee something coming down the pike, whatever that is. But it's been a invaluable tool in this time when you can't kind of go and sit one-on-one with individuals and have that kind of face-to-face. You still get the presence of a face-to-face virtually, which is very, very nice. I think in many ways with extended family, it's been helpful. When you look at how teachers are utilizing it to stay connected with their students, I think it's amazing, because this is an uncertain time for everyone, and children are no exception to that. Virtual learning, well, let's just start with learning, period. Learning in general can be difficult for some students, and some need that one-on-one time with the teacher. They need that kind of, during recess or lunch, I can go into the teacher's office and kind of, sit with her one-on-one and ask a question. And so to see teachers now setting up days out of the week where they have sessions specifically for kids who are having issues or who might need a little extra help, I think what it's proven is that we are resilient as a people. It's proving that we are willing to go the extra mile to stay connected, to continue to help one another in any way we can. And so Nick mentioned something earlier about telehealth. It's, think about not being able to go to see your therapist or see your psychiatrist, but you still need that kind of face-to-face. Nothing is wrong with over the phone, but it's something that connects you and you can see someone and look into their eyes and they can look back into your eyes. And so I think authentic, it's making the communication a lot more authentic and genuine, and it's making it also a lot more impactful.
So I know, Nick, I know this is your area, so we'll give Nick a half hour to brief us on some of the things we need to really. And so we were talking before about we were talking about some things you're working on, some new products and some books and stuff like that. And so I know that plays a part, but something that made me think about this topic with technology and the whole progress that we're doing. If you were to look at December 31st and then look backwards in terms of communication, what do you think it will become?
I think it'll be very intentional. I think as we've certainly started going through holidays around communication and family gatherings and things of that nature, I think when you get into those Thanksgiving and Christmas, it will be even more intentional. You have families and even coworkers and things of that nature that probably pre-COVID didn't really assimilate, be around each other, connect with each other, or things of that nature. And I think when we're put in a situation where we are forced in some cases to isolate, in some cases to be separate, isolation is not good. And so to be able to have a form of communication in some capacity for corporations and leaders, even if it's just a weekly check-in. I know my wife does a Zoom call with her team every single day of the week, which is a check-in with her group. I do telehealth with my clients via Zoom, and we do on the weekends, we do a family Zoom, which gets to bring in everyone all over. Yes, which brings in the fact that it impacts everybody all over.
Right.
And so when you're talking about someone who is a very, very social person, this is stressful, because no matter what, yeah, we can do this and this is great, but we like to be amongst folks. Yeah. We like to touch and feel. We like to be, around each other in a group. That's our social. We've had to adjust to that. And then you have those who, I don't really know you like that. I don't want to be around you like that. We can talk on the phone, but when you put them in a situation like this where they're forced to do this, that does something different on the mental psyche. Yeah. And so isolation before looks worse now.
But what about the introvert? What about the person who literally is not a people person? Some people really like to be alone. But I think to your point, and I think something Noleta said earlier, now they can't choose that.
Absolutely.
It's chosen for them. Now there's an order that says it's great. We won't get into the weirdness of some of the orders that don't make any sense. but at some point, there's an order now. You can't, even if you wanted to. So if you're an introvert, it will affect you. But now we almost have a delayed effect of later, when it finally hits you, that it's not that you don't want to be around people, but you can't be around people. that would really throw me in a certain way. I know we've talked about transportation. We've heard in the news about, how do you get around and driverless cars, driverless buses. What does that look like in the future? And I'm gonna throw that to Noleta. What does the future look like with transportation as it relates to now? If I didn't want to get on a bus, I'm definitely not getting on a bus now. But then,
That's a really great
Sure.
question. I don't know if I have all the answers, but I will weigh in terms of my opinion. I still think we are a little ways away from that stage, right? I think that, the whole driverless cars and all that, of course, people are looking to figure out how they can make interactions limited so that you're not, having to be around mass groups. And you see that with how they're trying to roll out sports and different things that would normally call for a large gathering. But if the way I see it is that people are going to choose to be, the majority of people, let me qualify that, are going to choose to be responsible because they want some semblance of normalcy. And so that means if I have to get on the bus, I'm going to make sure I have my mask. I'm going to make sure I have some hand sanitizer. I'm going to make sure, to the best extent that I can, I separate myself. So if there is a seat, if there are seats open, I'm not going to come and sit directly next to someone, but otherwise I'm going to come and I'll maybe sit a seat over from there. You'll see people who are going to, to the best of their ability, try to limit their contact as best they can. Now, I know that there are some new things that people are talking about that, Uber drivers or Lyft drivers are even trying to do, where they're trying to put up, their own partitions in a way to try to keep that separation. So I think you're going to see a lot more of that before you'll truly see driverless cars and all of that, develop, because, we still need time to develop that technology. But I will say that you will see people being a lot more diligent in their health. And that's not to say that you won't see the opposite, because for every person who wants to go and put a mask on and have their gloves or, social distance, there are a group of people that say, hey, it's my choice. I shouldn't be forced to wear a mask if I don't want to. I shouldn't be forced to stay at home if I don't want to. So you're going to see those individuals as well. And so I don't want to sit here and condemn one over the other or say one's right and one's wrong. But I will say, when you're choosing your own health and you're trying to do what's right for you and your family, you're going to try to take whatever precautions you can to ensure that you're being as safe as possible. And so I think that's what it's going to look like. I don't necessarily know if how technology can benefit us. The only thing I can say is that it can keep us from, maybe they'll have better masks as time goes on. Maybe they're developing technology for that. Contact tracing for sure is going to be extremely helpful, and that's technology based. So I think we're going to be able to utilize things that are readily available to us to move forward as it relates to technology and kind of making sure that we're staying safe.
But how do I decide? Well, shouldn't I have a right to decide what's really something I want to do? If I decide to wear a mask or don't wear a mask, that's fine. But then if there are consequences, you can't complain. If that's great, but I've gone in stores and they said, hey, you can't come in without a mask.
I've seen that.
And
I feel like that's
no
fair.
problem with that.
Yeah.
Well, I don't know if it's fair.
Well, here's the thing.
I think it's their business. So if they decide they want to do it, I have a right to choose whether or not to go to your business or not.
That's why I feel like it's fair.
Basically that. What scares me is when we start to tell people, well, I don't know if you're being as safe as you should be. Well, I don't know if you can tell somebody that. I don't know.
And also keep in mind here that a lot of organizations, and this is me putting on my risk management hat, a lot of the organizations requiring masks in their places are taking the advice of their insurers. Because I can tell you, it's just a matter of time before the lawsuits start coming. I was infected because I was in Walmart and they weren't requiring them to have on masks.
Well, nothing covers it. I
Right.
can't think of anything in the insurance industry, and I'm by no means a professional, not even remotely close, but I can't think of anything, even in a force majeure in a contract for events. It's not covered. Like, it covers everything. It literally doesn't cover this.
Mhm.
If you're,
And as we take a look at law, I think that's another thing. Precedent will first have to be set in order for new laws to take effect. And so to Nick's point, what you're going to see is people scrambling to bring suit of some sort, trying to figure out on the basis of X, Y, and Z. So, but once that precedent is set, that's it. Like that's
well, they're already working on legislation
Yeah.
to temper that to the point where it may not be fathomable. Did I say the right word?
fathomable.
To actually sue somebody for COVID
Mhm.
because, and so your time limit is going to be set. I mean, lawyers are working it out, I'm sure, along with especially legislators. But at some point, we're going to have a hold harmless clause that says, hey, if you come in here, it's on you.
Mhm.
The same way with concealed carry.
And you'll see those signs up.
If you decide not to, one of those quirks in the law, if you decide not to do something and then people get hurt, then it's on you. But if you put up your sign, hey, you have to have a mask, and you come in without a mask, you've pretty much removed your right to sue or to bring, well, you could always bring, a lawsuit, but it's probably not going to go anywhere because hopefully states, cities, and counties will stand up and say, at some point, we've never been able to deal with this before. There's nothing in writing.
Right.
And I think a lot of people are going back to contracts they have with hotels for next year, this year, saying, if we get canceled again, we need that in our contract. That says, because now it's like, an act of God or something this, and nowhere does it say, oh, the governor came in and canceled and said I couldn't go. Well, sorry, but that's not on a contract. That's not one of the reasons why you can cancel a contract. If you're smart, I think most businesses are going, you know what, we need to readjust. We need to change this thing because eventually, I think technology is going to catch up to the point, and I guess this is more so a question than a comment. Will we ever go back to anything remotely close to the way we used to be? Large gatherings, or?
I think we will once you get the vaccine out there. Once the vaccine is done, out there, tested, and available to the masses.
Right.
Oh yeah, we'll get back there.
Yeah.
I just find it interesting. Go on. I'm sorry.
No. I was gonna say, and I agree with Nick. I said, and then, and only then will you see
Right.
People's comfort level get to a place where everyone, because right now there are some people who are throwing caution to the wind and they're okay, right? They're okay moving forward the way things are right now. But there are
throwing caution to the wind.
Well, if they don't choose to, for them, it's not, I don't feel like I'm affected by. So the caution is what the CDC is saying, what health experts are saying. That's what I mean when I say throwing caution to the wind. They're cautioning everyone to stay at home, to be very intentional about, limiting your contact. So you have people who feel like that they're okay with assuming whatever the risks might be. They're okay with the risks and they want to get back out there. And that's fine. I'm not, again, I'll repeat it. I'm not here to say either way what your comfort level should be and what you should or should not do.
Right.
But what I will say is that there are people who are already there, but there are a large number of people who it's going to take some time to get there. And so until those people who are, utilizing maybe, in some people's opinion, extreme caution, whatever you want to call it, until the masses are all comfortable, until we're all comfortable, I think, that's when we'll see things kind of slowly shift back to whatever normal was for us prior to COVID-19.
Now, this is an interesting question I throw out for both of you, because I've seen this, and I'm sure this will be a nightmare for organizations, but let's say until there is a vaccine,
Right.
I know it's already happening at the state because my wife is dealing with it, is they're transitioning back to be inside, okay? And now they have individuals who are requesting to continue to be remote because they got to care for a loved one who's an at risk. And even though they got to go to work and wear their mask, they're still somewhat putting themselves at risk. And to come back home and expose yourself to someone who is maybe an elderly mom, grandma, or somebody that has underlying conditions could be a problem. Or if you, like, for example, I have a really chronic respiratory condition. And so I know I'm extremely high at risk. And so a lot of things that I did before, I got to rethink how I do them now.
Right.
And so, I mean, unfortunately, I work for myself, but if I was in a situation where I worked for someone and they were transitioning back to being back in the office or whatever that looked like, I would have some concerns with that as it relates to me, especially if their position is if you want to wear a mask, you can, and if you don't, you don't have to.
I'm not touching that because I got about a week's worth of answer. I think people need to recognize a couple things constitutionally and personally that we've grown accustomed to and we've forgotten. Many of the things you receive at work are benefits. One of those benefits is I pay you to work. I don't have to pay you to work under some circumstances, especially in states like Wisconsin. You work at will. So if you don't want to do the job, then you're not going to get the benefits that come with the job, like pay, health care, things of that nature, family medical leave. The beauty of that is we know that companies understand and recognize and care about their employees. And so they're making amends, they're changing, they're putting up, safety guidelines. I believe this week MMAC is starting to work with local businesses to create safety guidelines so when people go back to work. I think the drawback, I think the only person that will lose, well, I think both will lose. I think the employer will lose because they don't have the presence of an employee on site working. But then I think to both of your points earlier, now, do I really have to be at work? Can I get this work done from home? And so I think there are going to be a lot of changes in policies and procedures. I cannot see Family Medical Leave Act ever being the same again.
I'm telling you, it's not.
I've now got people that are ill and have to take care of a loved one. I may be in that population because of either age or because of some underlying condition, and I don't feel safe doing that. Well, if I can get my job done from home, can I work from home? I know some organizations out west, they're telling them you're not coming back to work till at least the end of June. And they want to be safe. And so now that I think one of the states, Seattle, is starting to slow significantly. I'm sorry, Seattle's a state now. Washington State is starting to slow down considerably. They're starting to see you're able to roll out and go back to work. But we really, really, really need to utilize this same technology to assist those people that are at both ends of the spectrum, but we can call them all the same thing, vulnerable. And so how do we use science and medicine to bring business back?
I think we need at least a central source. We got to agree upon the central source starting point.
But what does that mean? Federal or state? If it's federal,
think-
that scares me.
I think we got to use both. I think federal has to, because state is getting their stuff, a lot of their stuff from federal in terms of science and medicine. And so you got the two have to talk and collaborate with each other. And I think they need to agree that we're going to use this as a source, as a credible source. And we're going to use, even if it's just a reference point and a guide, so that eventually all the cities and states are singing from the same hymn book, utilizing the same source.
But that's the problem. If everybody's doing the same thing. So if I'm in rural northern Wisconsin, you probably shouldn't be following the same protocols as Milwaukee. We're much more densely populated. So you should probably take care of your county in a way that's helpful and manageable for you. Some people need significantly more. Let's say you work in a nursing home. You need significantly more resources. But I think in the beginning, we really didn't think about nursing homes. We thought about hospitals. And so now we have to backtrack because we listened to one source. And now we have to backtrack and go, maybe that wasn't good. And so if you're local people who know the city, the county, and they're telling you that's great that they're doing that, that's a great source. But here, we need to change it and do this. And people go, no, this is what the feds say. This is what the governor says. And I'm by no means saying don't follow the federal government or the state or the governor. What I'm saying is local public health has to deal with local issues. And so when you get the one person in God knows where telling somebody halfway across the state, this is how you should do it, that might not necessarily jive.
Well, so even if you're utilizing your local healthcare professionals as your guide and your litmus test, I think the overarching guide is, we'll just say CDC. So if I'm in rural Wisconsin,
but remember, CDC is only, those are only suggestions.
Okay, I get that.
CDC does not run local. Okay,
I get that. So it's just suggestions. And even if I take in some healthcare professionals and all of that, it's just suggestions. It's the suggestions can still be a guide no matter where you are. So if I have very limited cases in rural Wisconsin, I look at the overarching suggestions or the guide, and I still make a choice on what we're going to do here locally. But you got to have a reference point.
True. I just mean those people that just go in and say, hey, we're going to follow CDC to the letter. That's kind of strange to me because every municipality and every county and every local group has their own way of living and their own way of dealing with certain things. That's why we have public health professionals in these places. And I think if we just follow them, well, that's suggestion, that's what we're doing. I think that leaves a lot to be desired. And I think that's why we have such a sporadic, outpouring of, protests where it works in some great in some areas. In some areas, it just, no matter what you do, it causes trouble because we didn't make decisions. We followed a larger group in the beginning instead of following your community standards and your community leaders. We followed and did things. I still think New York would be an entirely different place had they simply not sent the elderly after they got through COVID back to the nursing home. They sent them back, and now we've got these issues. And so I think how do we design that so that we use guidelines and input and suggestions from a group, but then design it so that it works just for us locally?
I think you have to have the appropriate people in the conversation. So, to your point, taking the guidelines that were given and having a team of people to sit there, parse through them, have conversations, understand the need and the impact of all the communities involved, not just, one or two, and then making the appropriate recommendations on how to move forward. I think you have to have buy-in and have to have buy-in and have the understanding of how it affects all of the population. You know, the studies are still showing us that this thing is affecting, you know, African Americans, especially African American men, at a higher number than others. And so I think as part of that conversation, you have to have people with specialties in those areas who understand African American health, weighing in and saying, you know, hey, these are some things that we think could be utilized and be beneficial for this community or that community. So I think it starts with, you know, for lack of a better word, a task force, if you will, you know, of people who are, who have the knowledge, have the expertise, and have the information from these various sources. And they are able to comb through that information and figure out a plan forward of how to apply it for the particular jurisdiction that they're in.
And
So.
I think part of that issue is, if I'm for a task force, I'm just not for all the same people on the task force. So if everybody agrees, there's going to be a problem right there. So we follow, hey, this is it, and nobody pivots, nobody changes when the new information comes in. So
yeah, so that's why I think you have to have people that represent a plethora of backgrounds and
right.
for the people who it's affecting, for, you know, from, you know, people who have specific expertise in this area. Like, you have to have a very well-rounded group. And I think
but it can't be by consensus. Otherwise, we're just doing the mediocre thing, and we're doing the really watered down, because the issue is there's no conversation about it. There's no discussion, no discourse. I hate to say it. There's no arguing about, this is why I believe what I believe, and this is what I think. And really a respectful airing of differences. Everybody has to agree. Well, we all agree, this is it. And that's great. It just doesn't work for everybody.
I don't know if I agree with that.
That's okay.
Well, I don't. Let me I'll say it
Not an argument. That's okay.
But and what I mean by that is, I think there has to be push, pull, give, take, of course. But what I truly believe is that if you get everyone in a room and they're able to speak up for the particular interest that we just talked about in that room, as long as whatever the consensus is, it's not the consensus that is of note. What's of note is that, did we come up with something that's representative for everyone?
But it can't be. You absolutely cannot do that. That's what consensus does. It's okay to disagree. I understand. But if it's a consensus for me is everybody agreed to something that nobody agrees to and nobody likes it. But it's watered down enough because everybody's opinion is included. So that's great. But if the public health person and the medical person say this, that's great. The mayor over here can still say this, and they can both coexist. We're under this misguided thing that consensus, everybody has to agree. Everybody has to follow. Any dissension is horrible, and you're immediately silenced. And that's just weird to me, because how do you get new information? That's been part of the issues, that we haven't been able to get updated information because everybody's still holding on to something somebody said 60 days ago. It has significantly changed.
Well, I think what you got two tracks here.
We probably got more than that.
Yeah. Two big ones that I see.
Yeah.
Is you got a track here of public health and medical facilities and medical providers and things of that nature.
Remember, public health people may not necessarily be medical doctors.
Right.
Right.
So public health doctors, whoever, trying to decide what it needs to look like. That, along with another track of what the politics in this looks like. And in some cases, you got some trying to please the other. And then what I'm always thinking about too is that, what does crisis leadership look like? So we got to make decisions, and we don't have a whole lot of time for, let's all get in the room and talk and have a discussion and figure something out.
Right.
So you got to take information, and you have to have the ability to take that information, decipher that information and make a decision. And sometimes, unfortunately, it may not mean I got to include you, and you in it,
Correct.
but a decision has to be made.
And then that information is going to change,
Right.
and we have to
It's
change
fluid.
with it. And I think
That's
that's
right.
what people are missing. They're missing that the initial numbers that came out February, March, where 2 billion people were going to die. Scientists
Yeah.
have since, data and statistical experts have gone back and looked at that data and found out it was wrong. It was incorrect. Like the data and the way that he did it was incorrect. That doesn't mean he's, oh my God, that's terrible, because he or she did something that nobody else was doing. But we should have known in the beginning the way it works. And I'm not a pandemic expert by any stretch of the imagination. Information changes over time.
Absolutely.
And
Absolutely.
you have to roll with it. So everybody we got to shut down the whole world because 2 million people are going to die. Well, did anybody double check the numbers? And somebody went, let's go back and double check the numbers, and found maybe that number might be less than 100,000.
Okay, I got a question.
Okay.
So discard social media. What do you think this would look like in terms of communication?
And say that again. Give me some context.
So get rid of social media,
Right.
as it was before we had the social media and the
Okay.
internet on receiving information.
Okay.
Tell me what you think this would look like in terms of getting all kinds of information. Would this be more organized? Do you think we would still have a whole bunch of chaos as it is? What do you think it would look like?
I think it would be significantly organized. I think we would have not used first of all, social media is just a channel. It's not information. It's something that holds it. So anything can go in it. You could call yourself a cook, but if you put anything in the pot, a shoe, a potato, some hair, you're cooking. It's just not edible. And I think that's what's happening in social media. I think if we had gone to the old school way of doing it, which I had suggested to an entity at the very beginning, and people laughed because we're lazy. Hey, let's use social media and but a friend of mine said, you know what we really need to do? We need a truck with a mega horn or a squad car and a fire truck. And we need to go from block to block and place to place and put a piece of paper in somebody's hand, basic information with the name of the person influencing them, and tell them, this is what you need to do, period. It would have been taken care of in about 2 weeks. But instead, we let, what was the strangest thing? 5G is causing COVID. What? I mean, I'm just saying. So at some point, we have to be really cognizant of when things like this happen. Instead of using what's new, instead of using what's easy, the low-hanging fruit, we have to go all the way back and figure out what's the least common person that we need to, and that's probably a bad way of saying that, to get a hold of. We need to get a hold of the person that's in the home, the person that can't leave, that hasn't left in years. How do we I find it amazing. We figure out a way to get people to vote, but we haven't figured out a way to get people to get them information. That means we really need to go door to door. We really need to go to those places and say, hey, we're gonna hand it out, everybody on the block. Call every person on the block. Who's that leader on your block? Okay, it's you. Make sure X amount of people and mark it, okay? I'm on Noleta Franz's block and there are 28 homes on the block, and she did all 28 and she submits that to her alderman. And her alderman now has actual numbers of the number of people. Now when I go back and check and see who got infected, I know, wow, the block that we didn't get, they got infected because they didn't have information. Just basic things that we can do with people that we don't do. How can I get through social media with all the crap and pictures and parties that people had this past weekend? I can't imagine today. It's what, 85 degrees outside? I don't know. But we had to expect numbers are going to spike. And so that scares me on social media when we talk about the numbers are spiking, but they're expected to spike because we're doing more testing. And I don't think we told anybody that, hey, by the way, as we do more testing and testing for antibodies, the numbers are going to go up. I just heard right before we came on, somebody, and I have to go back, included the numbers of the people that had antibodies with the people that tested positive. So the numbers may actually be disjointed and skewed because the same people we included that had antibodies, they should have been negative. If my assumption is correct, they should have been counted as negative because they don't have the active virus. They've already gotten through it. So are we just counting people? And I guess only if you re-attract the virus, would you be counted twice? I think you probably should. But at some point, we got to get all this statistical data stuff in the hands of people. Postcard, we've got a whole United States Postal Service we can use, Amazon drivers, FedEx, whatever, to get it from door to door. We've got to make it like smoking a cigarette. It's universal. Smoking is bad for your health. You need to know, wear a mask, have gloves, wash your hands for 20 seconds or more. It should be in school. It should be wherever you go. And until then, social media is going to tell you that, don't use a 5G phone because, you'll get COVID. That's a pretty good diatribe, you think? Noleta, you're still muted, by the way.
I said was, or you can drink a little bleach. Either way.
Ooh.
Oh yeah, I remember that too.
We all know people aren't going to drink bleach, and when people are being, anyway, I'm not going to get into politics because then, some people's heads will explode.
I just left that there. That's all.
There you go. There you go.
You can ingest it or get it underneath your skin some kind of way in the lungs because it apparently cleans out. Doesn't matter. Either way, I think
you couldn't help yourself. You just had to.
Accurate information is key.
And the information has to be in context. So when you just say it in passing, it sounds worse than it really is. Yeah. That is true. Any parting shots? I probably shouldn't say that, right? Parting shots. What other industry do you think is going to really be affected by technology? I don't know if Lyft and Uber are really going to come back. I think those
I think they'll
come back.
Yeah, they've steadily they've been a steady incline of them here recently as things open back up.
They'll come back.
Yeah.
You think it might go up because people want safer transportation?
That too. If you're on public transport, if you are someone who catches the bus or any sort of, I know we have the hop. I'm not sure if that's going to be coming back. It's starting to warm up, but whatever. But so I can choose to either be in this vehicle with several people on my way to my destination, or I could get into this vehicle with one person and limit my exposure.
Well, the hop is a little different because it's open air, at least.
It's still more people than you would be unless you did some sort of Uber ride share, where you're in the car with multiple people.
Yeah, ride share's probably done for a little while.
Yeah. Yeah.
I think at some point we're going to make adjustments and get back to normal, and we're going to get a vaccine, and it'll be like every other virus we've had. We'll get it nipped in the bud, and that'll be that. And we'll move on. And our grandchildren will grow up not really thinking about it. They'll think of it as a common cold, which is still in the COVID family, is in the coronavirus family. It'll just be something you get vaccinated for. I think the issue we're going to have in 2021 is we have to figure out how long the vaccine will last. We've had a few decades to figure out if I give you a flu vaccine, once a year is about that time. And a few years ago, every now and then they think this flu's going to come and they kind of messed up. But I think the investigation in reverse, all the way back to China, will give us some really rich data on just how we could have used technology to adjust how the coronavirus affected us. And I think we won't be able to do that until we shake out, like both of you said, till we get out of this political era of always trying to politicize everything and going back and forth, and let the scientists and the public health folks handle all this.
Mhm.
For sure.
For sure. So what are we going to talk about next week? What are we going to talk about? Any ideas? Any suggestions? I'm stuck at looking at what's happening in the future. I'm stuck at really looking at what's going to occur when we get economic growth. Like, what does that look like?
I think talking about the economic fallout of this and when, seemingly we could look to recover would be a great conversation to have, because there are going to be some people who are going to certainly have hardship recovering from this. Not only people, but small businesses and, industries where certain jobs were seen as vital. I think, you'll see certain things, kind of falling by the wayside and no longer being essential or vital anymore. And so I think conversations surrounding the kind of fallout and what that looks like would be good.
I think I think all those definitions are going to change.
Mm-hmm.
I think we're going to look at how we call essential. And I think all those people that were looked at as not making a lot of money and not being in a certain area where they were making six figures and had a title and a degree and all those things have really changed. And so I think with economic growth, we should probably take a look at how education is going to change as it relates to, I know Secretary DeVos put out was it an RFP? Anyway, there's a grant for places that have been stricken by COVID to help create training or a certificate that will take 1 year or less, because people have to get fast tracked back into earning those skills and abilities and having the knowledge in order to do things. And so I think that's pretty interesting, economic growth and how technology is really going to, so we thought, would revolutionize the markets, but I think it's actually saved us this time. So should make for a great conversation. All right. Well, thank you guys. I appreciate it. Feels like we haven't done this for like a whole year. I get stir crazy when Noleta hasn't hollered at me for at least something I said. She usually hollers at least one thing.
No, I did not holler.
Yes,
do I
did.
usually?
See, look at that face. That face right there. That's what I'm talking about. That, on the forehead, he's like, yeah. You must be married. Yeah, that's that look you get and you really go, you just stop talking.
It's the lean in face. That's all.
That leaning in. If I hear another person say lean in. See, I could just mute her. And then
it's the face.
Thank you guys.
The lean in face.
I'm getting
I can just remove your name and make it lean in, right?
No, don't do that.
Okay. All right. You guys have a great week. Have a great holiday. Let's remember our veterans who have paid the ultimate sacrifice on tomorrow. And God bless and take care.
Bye.
Bye-bye.